Another video to all. Good day. We have now our Teacherbot. So this session is about lesson 4. So the lesson 4 focuses on the part of speech, which is the adjectives. So we're going to start now. Click start, get started. Okay, so this is the main page of the Teacherbot. So since we have already tackled the lesson 1 up to 3, so we're going to type here lesson 4. Okay, then you're going to click that one. Okay, so we have now the lesson 4. Welcome to lesson 4, Rogelio. Adjectives are words that describe or modify another person or thing in the sentence. So let us click articles. The articles a, and the are adjectives. So have the sample here. The tall professor. Article the. A solid commitment. Article a month's pay. A 6-year-old child. The happiest, richest man. So let's proceed now to adjective clause. So in the adjective clause, we have here, if a group of words containing a subject and verb act as an adjective, it is called an adjective clause. So my sister, who is much older than I am, is an engineer. If an adjective clause is stripped of its subject or verb, the resulting modifier becomes an adjective phrase. So we have here, he is the man, open close parenthesis, who is. So we strip the word who is, still the sentence, keeping my family in the poorhouse. So still, who is referring to the man. We have here pictures. So let us view. So and then zoom. Okay, so consider the uses of modifiers in this adjectively rich paragraph from Thomas Wolfe Luke's Homeward Angel. So Charles Skinner's 1929, page 69. Adjectives are highlighted in this color, that is pink. It is called now participles. So all the words that in pink part highlighted. So look at adjectives are highlighted in this color. So verb forms acting as adjectives are highlighted in this blue. So acting as an adjective, so blue. Some people would argue that words that are part of a name like is, Inja, tea, house are not really adjectival, and the possessive nouns fathers, farmer are not technical adjectives, but were included them in our analysis of Ball's text. So let us see and try to comprehend. So he remember yet that is Inja house. So is Inja tea house refers to the house. So functions as adjective. At the fair, the sandalwood, the turbans and the robes, the cool interior. So you have cool, describing the interior. And the smell of India tea. So, what kind of tea? From India. So, adjective. It looks like noun, India, but the function of the sentence, it is adjective, modifying the tea. And he had felt now the nostalgic thrill. So, thrill being described by nostalgic. So, being nostalgic, you look back on the past. So, you are always remembering the past. So, that is nostalgic. And the dew wet morning. Yan. So, describing the morning, a lot of dew. And it is wet. Dew wet mornings in spring. The cherry scent. So, cherry becomes now adjective describing the word scent. The cool clarion earth, so describing the earth. The wet luminous of the garden. The pungent breakfast smells. So we have the word pungent, breakfast, meal. So these two words describe the smell. And the floating snow. So we have the color blue. As we look at, it highlighted acting as adjectives. So the blue now is acting adjective. So floating in grammar, it is verb plus ing, so it becomes a gerund. So gerund. Floating snow of blossoms. He knew that into eight sharp excitement of hot dandelions in young earth. So we have hot dandelions and then young earth. So earth describes as young. In July, of watermelons bedded in sweet hay. So if you see this, the word being describing the hay. Inside a farmer's covered wagon. Yan. So, who owned that wagon is the farmer. So, describing now we have the farmer's covered wagon. So, covered here, it is participle. Cover, covered. So, participle. A participle describing the wagon of cantaloupe and grated peaches, and the scent of orange rind, bitter sweet before a fire of coals. He knew that the good males smell of his father. So the good male smell. So describing the odor of the father. Of his father's sitting room, of the smooth worn leather sofa. So, what kind of sofa? Okay, leather. With the gaping horse hair rent of the blistered varnish wood upon the hearth of the heated calfskin bindings of the flat, moist plug of apple tobacco, stuck with a red flag of wood, smoke, and plant and burnt leaves. Burnt. So here is past participle again. Burnt leaves in October of the brown, tired autumn earth of honey suckle at night, of warm nasturtiums, of a clean, ruddy farmer who comes weekly with printed butter, eggs, and milk, of fat, limp, underdone bacon, of of coffee, of a bakery oven in the wind, of large, deep-hued string beans smoking hot and seasoned well with salt and butter, of a room of old pine boards in which books and carpets have been stored, long closed, of conquered grapes in their long white baskets. So, as we notice here, so that is highlighted in this color pink and blue. So, um, this pink, it is an adjective, and it is blue, which is came from a participle either infinitive to plus verb, or the participle, which is the past participle of the verb. So, the covered, bedded, heated, tired, varnish, underdone. So, we have here. So, learning about verbs is sometimes require a lot of imagination, because if we will have to comprehend all this description, it talks about uh, in the farm life. So, an abundance of adjectives like this would be uncommon in contemporary prose. So, some of the prose or narrative texts uh, in the present time, it is seldom, but it can read in the old text, like in novels. In novels, um, we can read a lot of descriptions and a lot of samples of adjectives. Whether we have lost something or not, it has left up to you. So that is one of the how we're going to interpret now the text, especially when we read novels. Okay, so let's proceed for more examples. So we have here adjective position. So adjective position, we're going to locate the position of the adjective in the sentence. So let us see. Okay, so all the texts are loaded. Position of adjectives. Unlike adverbs, which often seem capable of popping up almost anywhere in a sentence, adjectives nearly always appear immediately before the noun or noun phrase that they modify. Sometimes they appear in a string of adjectives, and with and when they do, they appear in a set order according to category. So see below. When indefinite pronouns such as something, someone, anybody are modified by an adjective, the adjective comes after the pronoun. Anyone capable of doing something horrible to someone nice should be punished. Then something wicked this way comes. So we have that example. And there are certain adjectives in combination with certain words are always post positive, coming after the thing they modify. The president-elect, heir apparent of the Gliese fortune, lives in New York proper. So here, um, we can look at the word itself. So in the sentence, it is enclosed with comma and so ear apparent of the glitzy portion. So that's part of the post positive modification. See also that the note of adjectives below for positions such as words ablaze, aloof, and aghast. So we have now the degrees of adjectives. So the degrees of adjectives. So adjectives can express degrees of modification. So Gladys is a rich woman. So rich. But Josie is richer than Gladys. And Sadie is the richest woman in the town. So we have the degrees of modification. Rich, richer, and riches. The degrees of comparison are known as the positive, the comparative, and superlative. So actually, on the comparative and superlative show degrees. We use the comparative for comparing two things and superlative for comparing three or more things. Okay, so in that sample, we have three persons, Gladys, Josie, and Sadie. And the richer is Josie, while the richest is Sadie. Notice that the word that frequently accompanies the comparative and word that precedes the superlative. The inflected suffixes ear or er and est suffices to form most comparatives and superlatives, although we need IER and IEST when a two-syllable adjectives in Y. So Y happy, change the Y to I and add IER. Then and happiest, change the Y to I and add EST. So otherwise, we use more and most when an adjective has more than one syllable. So we have here the sample picture. Let us view. So we have here positive, comparative, and superlatives. So we have the rich, richer, richest, lovely, lovelier, loveliest, beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. So in the common error is beautifuler, beautifulest. In common error, that this must be added with more beautiful, most beautiful. Certain adjectives have irregular forms in the comparative and superlative degrees. So we have here irregular forms: good, better, best, bad, burst, bursts, little, less, least, much, many, some, so become more and most. So far, further, furthest. So in the sample, so more beautiful, most beautiful. Yeah. So let's go back. Then we have the comparatives. So in the comparatives, be careful not to form comparatives or superlatives of adjectives which already express an extreme of comparison. Unique or, for instance, although it probably is possible to form comparative forms of most adjectives, something can be more perfect and someone can have a fuller figure. People who argue that one cannot be more pregnant than another have been 9 months pregnant with twins. So we have back people who argue that one woman cannot be more pregnant than another have never been 9 months pregnant with twins. Yan. So that would be, according to Brian Garner, complete is one of those adjectives that does not admit a comparative degrees. We could say, however, more nearly complete, I am sure that I have not been consistent in my application of this principle in the guide. I can hear myself now saying something like less adequate, more preferable, and less fatal. Other adjectives that Gardner would include in this following list. So yeah, you have complete, absolute, impossible, principal, stationary, inevitable, irrevocable, adequate, unanimous, and chief. So be careful also not to use more along with comparative adjective form or with er, nor the use of most of along with superlative adjectives form with est. So do not combine the more and the er. So do not write the something that is more heavier, or most heaviest. So it cannot be. The as construction is used to create comparative expressing equality. He is as foolish as as is large. So he is as foolish as he is large. She is she is as bright as her brother. So it is an equal comparison. Okay, we have pre-modifiers. So in pre-modifiers, what adverbs and adjectives in their comparative and superlative forms can be accompanied by pre-modifiers, single words, and phrases that intensify the degree. So he were a lot more careful this time. More careful. He looks a lot less carefully than other jeweler in town. Less carefully. We like his work so much better. You get your watch back all faster. So the same process can be used to downplay the degree. The weather this week has been somewhat better. He approaches his schoolwork a little less industriously than his brother does. And sometimes a set of phrase, usually an informal noun phrase, is used for this purpose. He arrived a whole lot sooner than we expected. That's a heck of a lot there. So if the intensifier very very accompanies the superlative, a determiner is also required. So we have the sample here. She is wearing her very finest outfit for the interview. They they're doing they're doing the very best they can. Occasionally, the comparative and superlative form appears with the determiner, and the thing being modified is understood. Of all the wines produced in Connecticut, I like this one the most. The quicker you finish this project, the better. Of the two brothers, he is by far the faster. So, so we have here uh, how to use less versus fewer. So assume when making a comparison between quantities, we often have to make a choice between the words fewer and less. Generally, when we are talking about countable things, so we use the word fewer. When we're talking about measurable quantities that we cannot count, we use the word less. She had fewer chores, but she also had less energy. So in the sample chores, we have a lot of chores in the house, and but it requires a lot of energy, so it becomes less energy. The managers our local stop and shop seem to have mastered this way. They've changed the signs and the so-called express lanes from 12 items or less, or to 12 items or fewer. Whether that's an actual improvement, really up to you. So we do, however, definitely use less when referring to statistical or numerical expression. It is less than 20 miles to Delias. Is less than 6 feet tall. Your essay should be 1,000 words or less. We spent less than $40 on the trip. The towns spent less than 4% of its budget. Now, a budget on snow removal. So in this situation, it is possible to regard the quantities or sums of countable measures. So as a learning, less versus fewer. If it is less, it is what? When we're talking about countable nouns, so we use the word fewer if it is we count it. But if we cannot count that one, the quantity, not measurable, then we use the word less. Okay, so let's proceed to the next one. We have here about the height, taller than I slash me or me. So when making comparison with than, do we end with a subject form or object form? Taller than I or slash or she, or taller than me slash her. The correct response is taller than I or she. We're looking for the subject form. He's taller than I am. She's tall. So except we leave out the verb in the second clause, am or is. Some good writers, however, will argue that the word than should be allowed to function as the preposition. If we say, he is tall like me, or slash her, or then if than would be prepositional like, then we should be able to say he's taller than me. It is an interesting argument, but for now, in a formal academic prose, use the subject form in such comparison. So we also want to be careful in the sentence such as I like him better than she or her. Then the she would mean that you like this person better than she likes him. So the her would mean that you like this male person better than you like the female person. To avoid ambiguity or confusion and the slippery use of the than, we could write I like him better than she does, or I like him better than I like her. So we have now about taller than I am, and also the like. Then more than or over. So in the United States, we usually use more than a countable numerical expression, meaning in or excess of or over. In England, there is no such distinction. For instance, in the US, some editors would insist that on more than 40,000 traffic deaths in a year, whereas in the UK, over 40,000 traffic deaths would be acceptable. So, since we are following American English, so we follow the US. Even if in the US, however, we will continually hear over and numerical expressions of age, time, or height. His sister's over 40. She's over 6 feet tall. So, we've been waiting well over 2 hours for her. So, So we are following the US English, not the British or England. So let's proceed. We have now order of adjectives. It would take a linguistic philosopher to explain why we say little brown house and not brown little house, or what, or we say why we say red Italian sports car, not Italian red sports car. The order in which adjectives is a series sort themselves out of perplexing for people learning English as a second language. So most other languages dictate a similar order, but not necessarily the same order. It takes a lot of practice with a language before this order becomes instinctive. Because the order often seems quite arbitrary, if not downright capricious, there is, however, a pattern. So we will have the pattern or the order of the adjective. You will find many exceptions to the pattern in the table below, but it's definitely important to learn the pattern of adjective in order to, it is not part of what you naturally bring to the language. So we have their categories. So in the categories we have here the categories. Okay, I forgot to type the letter T. Categories in the following table can be described as follows. So determiners, articles and other limiters. C. Determiners observation. Post determiners and limiter adjectives. So we have example, a real hero, a perfect idiot, and adjectives subject to the subjective measure. Example, beautiful, interesting. Size and shape. So adjectives subject to objective measure. That is, it is wealthy, large, round. Age, denoting age. Some example, young, old, new, ancient. The color, adjectives denoting color. Example, red, black, or pale. We have here origin, nominal adjectives denoting source and noun. Example, French word, American, or Canadian. So, that's the point of origin. Material, nominal adjectives denoting what something is made of. Example, woolen, metallic, wooden. We have also the qualifier, final, limiter, often regarded as part of a noun. Example, rocking chair, hunting cable, passenger car, book cover. So have the royal order. So let us view the picture. So we have here the royal order of adjectives. We have the determiner, observation, physical, description, origin, material, qualifier, and noun. So in the physical we have the size, shape, age, and color. So a beautiful old Italian touring car. So the noun here in this column, the last column, an expensive antique silver mirror. 4 gorgeous looky long steam red silk roses. Her short black hair. So her is the determiner, short is the shape, color is black, the noun. Our big old English sheepdog. Those square wooden hat boxes. That dilapidated little hunting cabin. Several enormous young American basketball players. You have several determiner, size enormous, age young, origin American, qualifier basketball dito na players. Some delicious Thai food. Some, if we revise, some delicious Filipino food. So that's how we're going to revise. So in learning the real order, so this is only a guide for us in order not to interchange. Okay. So it would be fully, of course, to run more than 2 or 3 at most adjectives together. Furthermore, when adjectives belong to the same class, they become what we call coordinated adjectives, and you will want to put a comma between them. Then expensive, comfortable shoes. The rule for inserting comma works in this way. If you could have inserted a conjunction or a but between the two adjectives, use comma. We could say that these are expensive but comfortable shoes, so we would use comma between them. And when they have three coordinated adjectives, separate them with all commas, but don't insert a comma between the last adjective and the dot. In spite of temptation to do so because you're open to them. So popular, we have here the sample, a popular, respected, and a good-looking student. Okay, so that would be a popular, respected, and good-looking student separated by comma, describing the student. Okay, proper adjectives. In the proper adjectives, when an adjective owes its origin to the proper noun, it should probably be capitalized. Thus, we write about Christian music, Christian, capital C, French fries, French, letter F, the English Parliament, so English and Parliament, the Ming Dynasty, Ming, M, and Dynasty D, the Volkerian style, Jeffersonian democracy. Some periods of time have taken as a status of proper adjectives, so it must be capitalized. The Nixon era, the Renaissance Romantic Victorian poet, contemporary novelist and medieval writer. Directional or seasonal adjectives are not capitalized unless they are part of the title. So some of the adjectives, uh, proper adjective cannot be capitalized unless being part of the title. We look we look the Northwest Road during the spring tour. We stayed there until the town's annual fall festival of small appliances. So fall festival, small appliances being capitalized in the first word. We have now also collective adjective. So we have here when the definite article the is combined with an adjective describing a class or group of people, resulting praise can act as a noun. The poor, the rich, the oppressed, the homeless, the lonely, the unlettered, the unwashed, the gathered, the dear departed. The difference between a collective noun, which is usually regarded as a singular, but we can which can be plural in a certain context, and a collective adjective is that the latter is always plural and requires plural verb. So we have here the sample. The rural poor have been ignored by the media. Rural poor. The rich of Connecticut are responsible. The elderly are becoming to demand their rights. The young at heart are always a joy to be around. Okay, we have opposites. So the opposites, adjective. So we have a lot of samples here. So the opposite of the negative aspect of an adjective can be formed in a number of ways. One way, of course, is to find an adjective to mean an opposite or an antonym. So the opposite of beautiful is ugly, the opposite of tall is short. A thesaurus can help you find appropriate opposite. Another way to form the opposite is of an adjective is with a number of prefixes. So the opposite of fortunate is an unfortunate. The opposite of prudent is an imprudent. The opposite of considerate is inconsiderate. The opposite of honorable is dishonorable. The opposite of alcoholic is non-alcoholic. The opposite of being filed is misfiled. If you are not sure of the spelling of adjectives modified in this way by prefixes or with an appropriate prefix, you will have to consult a dictionary as the rule for the selection of a prefix, a complex or too shifty to be trusted. The meaning itself can be tricky. For instance, flammable, inflammable mean the same thing. A third means of creating of opposite of an adjective is combined with the less or least to create a comparison which points of the opposite direction. Interesting shades of meaning and tone become available in this usage. It is a kinder to say that this is the least beautiful city in the state. That is to say that it's the ugliest city in the state. Also, it can be slightly different meaning. A candidate for a job can still be worthy and yet less worthy of consideration than another candidate. It is probably a good idea to use this construction with an adjective that is already negative is less unlucky than his brother, although that is the same thing as saying that is luckier than his brother. Use the comparative less to comparison is between two things of people. If the superlative least when the comparison is among many things or people. So we have here, my mother is less patient than my father. Of all the new sitcoms, it is my least favorite show. So we have here another sample um, using good versus well. So sometimes it is interchanged. In both casual speech or formal writing, we frequently have to choose between the adjective good and adverb well. So the most verbs there is no contest when modify a verb or use the adverb. So he swims well. He knows only too well who the border is. However, when it's using linking verb or a verb that has to do with five human senses, you want to use the adjective instead of the sample. How are you? I'm feeling good. Thank you. So, usually our reply, how are you? I'm feeling fine. So, that the answer is, I'm feeling good. Thank you. After a bath, the baby smells so good. Not fine. Well. So, even after my careful paint job, this room doesn't look good. Many careful writers, however, will use well after linking verbs relating to health. So well relating to health. And this is particularly alright. In fact, to say that you are good or what that you feel good usually implies not only that you're okay physically but also that your spirits are high. So how are you? I am well. Thank you. So when your cat died, assuming that you love your cat, so we have here bad versus badly. Did you feel bad or badly? Applying the same rule that applies good versus will, use adjective form after that have to do with human feelings. So you felt bad. If you said you felt badly, it would mean that something was wrong with your faculties for feeling. Okay, let's proceed. Adjectives are that are really participles. So I have already discussed this one. Verbs formed with ing and ed endings can be a troublesome for some students. It is one thing that a frightened child, it is already a different matter to be frightening a child. Do you want to go up to your professor after class and say that you are confused or that how you are confusing? Generally, the ed ending means that the nouns so describe you has a passive relationship with something that the subject matter, the presentation has bewildered you and you are confused. The ing or ing ending means that the noun described has a more active role. You are not making any sense, so you are confusing to others, including your professor. So the ending modifiers are often accompanied by prepositions. These are not only choices. So we are amazed at all the circus animals. We are amused by the clowns. We were annoyed by the elephants. We were bored by the ringmaster. So we were confused by the noise. We were disappointed by a motorcycle daredevils. We were disappointed in their performance. We were embarrassed by my brother. We were exhausted from all the excitement. We were excited by the Lion Tamer. We were excited about High Wire Act 2. We were frightened by the lions. We were introduced to the ringmaster. We were interested in the rent. We are irritated by the heat. We were opposed to leaving early. We were satisfied with the circus. We were shocked at the level of noise under the big tent. We were surprised with the fans' response. We were surprised at their difference. We were tired of all lights after a while. We were worried about the traffic leaving the parking lot. So we have also adjectives. So we have the adjectives. The most common and the so-called adjectives are ablaze, afloat, afraid, aghast, alert, alike, alive, alone, aloof, ashamed, asleep, averse, awake, aware. These adjectives will probably show up as predicate adjectives. That is, they come after the linking verb. The children were amazed. The linking verb were. The professor remained aloof. So the verb remain. The trees were ablaze. Occasionally, however, you'll find adjectives before the word they modify. So the alert patient, the aloof, aloft, position. Most of them modify before the word they modify are themselves modified. The nearly awake student, the terribly alone scholar, and adjectives are sometimes modified by very much afraid, very much alone, very much ashamed. So I've taken this one for the reference. So guide to grammar or G grammar adjectives. So what we have here in this lesson. So let us uh, browse it back. It is about adjectives. So in making this one in your Teacherbot, it's a combination again with the text and the adjective clause. So if you look at it, it is purely text based, and somehow I put also images or capture an image on it. So this would be the content. It's about adjectives and the samples on it. So for the next video, still continuation of adjective, but this uh, not adjectives. We going to have it a separate discussion. So for this moment, we just only here use the text base, insert on this one. This is insert going to have the quick reply button in order to let the conversation having pauses. So hopefully I can share again an idea for you to improve your Teacherbot. So for the combination of this one, it's a combination of linking. So we're going to go to different sites, online sites like YouTube, in order to enhance this lesson. So we will discuss that one on the next video that I'm presenting. So these are the links that we're going to have. This is more on to learn more about adjectives. So I integrated this one here at the YouTube video. So at this moment, just only have this done. Okay, thank you for viewing, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Good day.